Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is the 1st of October, so we have started a new month, and the end to September was fairly quiet, but let's see how October will fare. Usually it's quite volatile with all the earnings that is planned to come in. But today we'll start with Apple that has bounced quite nicely and continuing to bounce and building an uptrend. And currently testing this little peak here at 232.92. Actually closed it just above it yesterday, and there's now potential up to 240, 245 short term maybe. Looking at the weekly chart, we can see here, well, it actually formed this bearish engulfing here back in July, had a massive sell-off. But it did bounce from this strong support here just below 200 and has bounced strongly. And medium term now there could be upside potential to 250, 253, maybe even higher. However, there is some divergence, so there's a little bit of worry there, but there's no divergence on the daily, indicating we could see higher levels in the coming days and weeks, unless they really surprise with some bad earnings. Moving on to the overall index S&P 500. Well, it started out badly yesterday, but the buyers came back buying throughout the session more or less, and we could still see a push up to 5,800, maybe even higher, because there's no divergence on the RSI. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, 5,700, well, then expect a larger correction. Here we have the US 500 CFD. Well, it is also slightly pushing higher. The Nasdaq 100 index, well, it did close the day before this below this gap area here. Now it's in the gap area. If we get another close above, if we get a close above, because we haven't seen a close up there since back in July, well, then we will see higher levels on Nasdaq 100, and especially if it can close above at the peak here at 20,273. The EUROSTOXX 50 is really struggling at the moment. It got hammered a bit yesterday, testing support here at 49.86. If it drops below that, well, then we could see a push down to around 49.50, 49.43, where we have some support. However, we are in a bullish sentiment there, a positive sentiment. There is no divergence, indicating we're likely to see EUROSTOXX 50 crawling higher in the coming days and weeks. But we do need these corrections from time to time. If you see it crawling back above 5,043, expect the bullish move to resume. Here we have also yesterday on the EU50 CFD that got sold off. Could see a little bit of correction here, but still I think we'll see it picking up in the coming days. But we need to be cautious. The thing is also, all these moving averages, they are still more or less flat. They really need to start moving up here. And I think they will start slowly lifting, so we can get the underlying trend with it. DAX. German DAX, well, it reached the 161.8 projection of this correction here, just below 19,500, which was my short-term target. There is a little bit divergent, so a little bit different from the EUROSTOXX 50. Well, we could see also here a little bit of correction. I'm not sure we will get all the way down to 19,000, but it's not impossible. And then I think uptrend will at least try to resume here on DAX, but expect a little bit of correction. If it takes out the peak here at 19,492, well, then I think we'll see a push up towards 19,700. And just a very quick look at the CFD also here, expect a little bit of correction. I think it's in the cards. The AX Amsterdam index, well, 908 is the key support there. And the thing here with the issue with the AX is that we are still in a negative sentiment. It hasn't broken above 60 threshold, really needs to close above it for upside potential. CAC 40 couldn't hold on above 77.25 and got smashed yesterday back below the 200 moving average, and now we're also back below the 100 that is declining. We could see it sliding back all the way down to around 7,500, where we have some strong support with the 55 moving average, and you remember this 74.64 support here down here. But we do have a positive sentiment, so I think it's just a correction for this troubled index, because we do actually have higher highs, higher lows, and so on. So we should see CAC trying to at least crawling a little bit higher, but there's strong overhead resistance at 7,900 if it can get up there. The SMI Swiss markets, well, it is still 12,250. It needs to close above that. If it does close below 12,119, then we could see it sliding lower towards 12,000. Euro dollar, well, it couldn't for a third time, couldn't break 112. Actually, for a fourth time, it was also over here, and within the past week also. So I think we will see a test of 110.83, which is the 61.8 retracement of this uptrend. If it breaks below, well, then we could see a drop or spike down to 110, and then I think we will resume uptrend once again, as the indicators telling me that, at least for now. So, but again, it really needs to break this level here, and preferably with a close that would really confirm it. And 112.15, if it takes out that, well, then I would expect a move towards 112.75 and higher in the coming weeks, but it needs to do that. We are still in a downtrend on a euro sterling, but still holding on a little bit. There is a little bit of divergence here on the RSI. You can see the RSIs are rising, whereas the excuse me, as the euro sterling has dropped lower, so there is actually room lower. And if we're looking at the longer term picture, you can see where we're dancing around just below the 83.40 level, which is key, but there's no support until around 82.30, and I think we will get there eventually. It will just take a little bit of a time. We need something that is prompting it, or a catalyst, more or less. We have cable. Well, I expect a correction at least down to 135.60, around that 65 level, where we have some support, and the 38.2 retracement also. But it's not unlikely it can drop all the way to the 61.8. And that's the thing. Usually, FX, they do correct 61.8, sometimes even more to the 786 retracement. That's why I have highlighted it here. 131.65, around that level, could be seen if it takes out the support here, but the overall bullish trend and medium term will still be intact, but we do have divergence, so expect a correction. Dollar yen has bounced after dropping to the 61.8 retracement, 142.20. We could see a little bit of a bounce, but as you can see here, all the moving averages more or less they're declining, despite we have this divergence here. So it will be interesting here the next couple of weeks. If we get back above 147.20-25, then I think we will establish a bullish trend. But for now, it seems like we are resuming bearish trend, but it's still holding on. You can also see the RSI actually bounced from the 40 threshold. If it drops below and closes below 40 threshold, well, then expect downtrend to resume with potential down to 138. But we are in a little bit of a limbo at the moment. That can be frustrating, and sometimes that happens. So have very, very short term next few days could be a little bit frustrating in this range around here, 143, 145. But if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 141.60, then I expect the downtrend to resume. Euro yen, more or less the same picture, bounced from the 61.8 retracement, 158.30. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, expect the euro yen pair to resume downtrend towards 155 and maybe even lower towards 153. but we can see it bouncing a little bit and trying to get up to the 162.5. But as also here we have the 55 coming down, we have the 100 coming down. So I think eventually it has to give in to the downside. But if it takes out 164, that is the key strong resistance. And if we get the RSI to close above 60 threshold, then we have a new situation. Also yen, it's actually testing the 99.90 resistance again this morning, and here we have a different picture than the two other yen pairs. We have the RSI actually in a positive sentiment. So if we can get Aussie yen to close above 99.90 and also take out the peak here at 100 spot 73, well, then we could see a push up towards 102.5. If it takes out the lows from yesterday at 97 and 99, so just here just around 98, well, then we could see it's dropping to the 96.30, which is the 61.8 retracement. The sterling yen, after this sell-off, also bounced and tested the 193.50 resistance just below the cloud here, and also positive sentiment. So we could see a test of, but there is really strong overhead, and the 55 moving is dragging it down a little bit. We have strong resistance here at the 100, so that will be key. Can it get back above that 100 moving average just below 196? Well, then we're looking at 200. Also, dollar is stalling a little bit in its push, and we could see a correction again down to 68, but we are above 69. And again, let's have a look at the weekly chart, because that actually is fairly interesting. 96 is the 69. Sorry about that. 69 is really the key level here. We are having we do see positive sentiment on the RSI. But the 200 moving average is coming down. They're kind of putting a lid on it, so that would be a little bit of a resistance. And yeah, it did spike above 69 a little bit, but let's see, maybe we'll have a correction. You don't want to see it below 68, then we could see a push all the way down to 67, but I'm not quite sure that would materialize. But for now, we're a little bit in a limbo. Will it actually form a top reversal pattern? If we get a negative candle today, well, then expect a correction to unfold in the Aussie dollar. And for dollar Canada, you can see it is bouncing back around this rising trend line here, and on the daily chart it's bouncing further. We talked about it yesterday that it could bounce all the way up to the 61.8 retracement and 135.60. I think we will see that, and then I think we'll see a downtrend resuming. We have the moving averages coming down there. The 200 moving average slightly rising, but it's also giving it a hard time. But again, it is not unlikely we could get up to the 786 retracement at just around 136, and then downtrend to resume. So let's see. It is a little bit up in the air, but if we're moving back below 135, expect the downtrend to resume. The Euro Swiss, well, it's still holding on a little bit, but trying to get back up here, but we have the 55 coming down. We have the 100 now very close to crossing over the 200 moving average, and that will put a damper on any upside potential. But 95 and a change 95.10, I would place my stop if it spikes up to that. But another push below the 94 and taking out the lows from yesterday, then we will see Euro Swiss, I'm fairly sure, down to around a 93 level. On the dollar Swiss, still in this range here between 84 and 85.40, and that's the key levels to look out for a break. And also keep an eye on RSI. If it breaks below its lower rising trend line while it's breaking below 84, then we're likely to see lower levels. The dollar index seems range bound between 99.89 and 101.18. It's now testing the upper falling trend line, and if it does break above that, then I think we'll see a test of the resistance here at 101.18. Close above that, well, then there's potential up to 101.86. Correction seems to be unfolding in gold. Key question will be, how big will it be? 38.2 retracement bouncing from there could resume uptrend. There's no divergence on the RSI, indicating that we are likely to see higher gold levels. And if it takes out the previous peak here at 2686, just below there, well, then there's potential higher to above 2700. If it takes out the lows from yesterday at 2624, well, then expect a correction down to around 2600, maybe even spiking down to test the lower rising trend line here. On the silver spot, we have, let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see what's actually going on, because it's a bit more volatile, actually, a little bit more wild than gold. Well, we have corrected down to the 38.2 retracement of the last leg up here, which is also very close to the 61.8 retracement of this uptrend here. So sorry, it's the opposite. I must still be sleeping here. There was 38.2 of the entire uptrend here and 61.8 of the uptrend, right, the last leg up there. If it takes out 30.70, then we could see a correction down, maybe even all the way down to 29.70. But then we have the 21, we have the 100 moving average coming up, giving some support, and I think we will see silver resuming uptrend fairly soon. We are in a bullish trend. There's no divergence on the daily RSI. There is, however, on the weekly a little bit, but if it takes out the peak here at 32.72, well, then there's potential up to between 34.40 and 35.40 level. On copper in a correction phase and has corrected down to the 38.2 retracement and 450. We could see it drop it down to around 440, where we have the 100 moving average coming in if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 449. However, we are in a bullish trend, short term and medium term. There is no divergence on the RSI, so I think we will see copper moving higher in the coming weeks and months, but still quite a strong move they have, and we could see a correction. And it's not even unlikely we could see it all the way down to 61.8 retracement, where we also have some supports coming up here. But then I think we will really bounce. So keep an eye what's going on with the lows from yesterday. Crude oil seems to resuming downtrend, and if it takes out the lows here from the 26 at 69.95 here on the WTI, I expect a push lower, and I think it's good idea to look at the weekly chart. If you haven't seen it before, if you're a newcomer to this channel, well, then we are in a bearish trend. Supported by negative sentiment after breaking this lower rising trend line in this triangle-like pattern with potential down to 64.62. Brent crude oil, the same picture really. Selling off could accelerate if it takes out the lows here at 70.72 with a push down towards 65, 66, 65 level after breaking this lower rising trend line there. The US 10-year Treasury is just moving sideways, can't really make up its mind what it's going to want to do. I think we will add a horizontal line just to give an idea of what's really going on. I think we'll see if this is the range, and it is also the range to the upside. And I actually think I will move that one up there just to give you an idea. That is the range between 370 and 382 in this range. It really needs to break out for direction. If it breaks out to the upside, well, then there could be potential up to 390, but then we have the 55 moving average coming down, kind of putting a lid on it. If it takes out 372, then I think we'll see it test this falling trend line in this wedge-like pattern, and normally you will see a push higher after a breakout, but at the moment it is just a range bound. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Talk to you again tomorrow.